Hi, it's me, Brandi Pett. I am the host of the Yes, I Am the Veteran podcast. We are doing a special program today for celebrating Black military history, a legacy of service and heroism. And we are here today with our special guest, and Mr. Arthur Coley. And we definitely, before I did introduce him, I do apologize. I did want to introduce my co-host, Mr. Daniel Flint. Daniel, did you want to talk about yourself a little bit?
18-year educator with Duval County Public Schools. I'm also a Den Star educator with Discovery Education Networks. I've been teaching U.S. history in the state of Florida for the last 14 years. And one of the big reasons why I wanted to bring this kind of content to the world is that during Black History Month, a lot of content gets covered all the time, but there's also a lot of forgotten history that gets lost along the way. And one of the big things that I think it gets really lost is veteran history. And African-American veteran history is something that I've been really passionate about for the past 4 or 5 years. And I wanted to do something that would highlight their honor, their service, and their sacrifice from the Revolutionary War all the way to present modern operations. And that's why through our amazing partners like Discovery Education, Grunt Style, Bossell Watches, and others that have allowed us and given us enough support, and also Michael with Dark Horse Photography to be here to support us with this project, to put this together and bring this content to the world. And AC, brother, we've known each other for a while now, and I cannot thank you. And same with Timothy, I can't thank you guys enough for coming out here and sharing your history, your legacy, and your story, and your heroism and sacrifice with us. So I really appreciate that. So, AC, did you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, my name's retired Sergeant Major A.C.Coley. Call me A.C. I spent about 41 years defending the Constitution.
41.
26 in the United States Army, and 15 as a DoD civilian. I fought in the Cold War, the Gulf War, and the global war on terrorism.
Wow.
One of the things that I want everybody to understand, that it was really because the United States Constitution means everything to all of us who serve.
Yes, sir.
And if I was young enough, I'd still be doing it. It'd be 45, maybe 50 years of service.
Yeah, absolutely.
And thank you for having me here today.
Well, it's an honor for you to be out here. Honestly, we are truly honored to have you guys come out and be our guests and speak about your history and your service. I mean, you yourself were a paratrooper, is that correct?
That is correct, to the heart, until the day that I die.
Look at that smile.
Yes. Funny you say that, because the majority of my career, I've served in elite airborne and special operations units. And I'm just going to call out some of my units because they're so awesome.
Absolutely.
Of course, the 82nd Signal Battalion. I was in the 50th Airborne Signal Battalion, which is 18th Airborne Corps' 4th Century Battalion for communications. And then I served in the 112th Special Operations Signal Battalion. It's the only airborne Special Operations Signal Battalion in the Department of Defense.
Wow.
And also finished up at the United States Special Operations Command as the J6 Sergeant Major, and I was there on 9/11.
Really? So what was that like being there on 9/11? Because a lot of people, especially our viewers, they may have been very young when that happened, but you were actively serving. And I know I was just before I enlisted myself. However, it's important for people to know, what happened, how did things really, I guess, affect that day? Everything's locked down, as I understand.
It was a pretty eventful day, and it was a pretty tragic day prior to 9/11 happened, because that day prior, I was going to one of my friends. We had a memorial service for one of my friends that had passed away, actually parachuting. And we were headed to the chapel. And then I got the notification that, hey, we need to go back to the headquarters because something had happened. Then got back to the headquarters, and then of course we got the message that we were attacked, and we were given the task of going after terrorists at that time. How did I feel? I felt I was torn between my partner that we were memorializing, and then I was angry because of what had happened. And then particularly at that particular point, it was when they said, let's roll, let's roll. Let's get at it.
Yes, sir.
And I knew that we had prepared, we trained and prepared the forces that were going to go into harm's way to be the best that they could be to go tackle this problem set.
Absolutely. And it not even that, like, military is in your blood because your brother actually is also a paratrooper, correct? Is that?
My brother's actually a leg. I call him a leg because he's not a paratrooper. But my brother,
What is that?
Johnny Coley, Sergeant Johnny Coley, a leg, and I mean this in the most affectionate way. It's that people that didn't go to airborne school. So if you didn't go to airborne school, the airborne community calls you a leg. But it's not, you know.
Because you don't officially jump.
No, what it is just you know, it's the little a competitive thing that you do, and you know, it's just something that the airborne community actually is kind of fond of.
It's the military community in general. Well, everyone kind of gets nicknames, or that we may or may not like.
Yeah, exactly. So my brother, I used to you know, give him one. Hey, you're a leg, but yeah, we didn't go to combat together.
Wow.
Both of us served in Gulf War.
Really?
Yes, that was another trying time for myself, you know, because he followed me into the military. I never expected we'd end up going into combat together, but yeah, we were both stationed in Europe, in Germany, and the wall had just come down. You know, talk about the Cold War. The war had come down,
wow.
And so we're all celebrating. We're just having a ball, and then we both get the notice that, hey, you're going to the Middle East. You're leaving Europe, and you're about to go to the Middle East. And I looked at him, and he's like, what? I said, yes, yeah. We're both going to fight in the Middle East. So first we deployed to what was called at that time Desert Shield, which was in Saudi Arabia. And then we both went into combat for Desert Storm. We were both under the 7th Corps.
Wow.
The 4-day attack. By the grace of God, I got a chance to see him once we got through and got ready to come back home. And we both got a chance to call my mother and let her know that we were fine. We were doing fine. And it was the right reason to protect that country,
absolutely.
protect the Constitution.
And that's always like so hard too, because I know sometimes people, when they are family members and they enlist together, they're not always in the same units, and it's hard to kind of see them even when you're on the same duty station, really.
Yeah, it was quite crazy because he was in, when we were in Germany. I was up in Frankfurt. He was down there in Nuremberg, which is the north and the south of Germany, and we had no idea. He was in a different unit, and I was in a different unit. We had no idea that we'd be going to another unit, and then we'd be stationed together in the unit. So it was kind of complicated, but you know, now that looking back on it, you know, it's we both feel the same way about our country and about the Constitution, and we both would do it all over again.
And I tell you what, that is just amazing. All the things that you've done, and just how awesome that, you know, your career and service has been, AC. You know, and one of the reasons why I wanted you to speak today, because you have another side thing that you do. You're a Civil War reenactor, correct?
Yeah. So a friend of mine,
really?
by a gentleman by the name of Command Sergeant Major Rick Lamb. Happy birthday, Rick. But Rick and I, we got together a long time ago and said, hey, we need to teach history.
Yep.
And one day, Rick asked me, well, let me step back. We normally do Memorial Day together.
Sure.
We make it a point to go to a graveyard to pay respects on Memorial Day. And then one day we went to the Special Operations Memorial, which is in front of the headquarters. And we said, hey, we're going to do something else. And so Rick he said, let's go down to the tailor. This tailor, there's a place off post the tailor. And I got out of the car, and then Rick had this uniform. And I'm like, okay, Rick, what is this? He said, hey, man, this is a uniform that the 54th Massachusetts wore, sort of a prototype of what they wore during the Civil War. And I said, yeah. He says, yeah, I want you to put it on. I think it'll fit you. And then we can go teach the Civil War. And I said, you sure, Rick? I said, I'm fat, man. He says, no, that's why we're here to tailor. They're going to tailor it for me. So we went in, and I put on a uniform, and, you know, it did fit. You know, it have to take 1 or 2 notches at the side. But from that day on, we made it a point to say, okay, let's educate, then we'll celebrate. You first have to educate people on what they don't know.
Yes, sir.
Then you can celebrate. And so we both together said, okay, a lot of people just don't know what they don't know. So what we're going to do is we're going to educate and celebrate. And so that's how we started off on the venture.
And it's funny, I've taught the Civil War for years, and a lot of teachers that I know, and there's nothing wrong with, they show glory all the time. The Matthew Broderick movie, highlighting with, it has Denzel Washington and it has Morgan Freeman highlighting the 54th Mass. But you might get like 5 seconds worth of history on that from like the troops and what they did. But what the questions that don't get, how did they form, and what happened to them after?
Yeah, one of the things, I'll get to that, but one of the things that most folks, they don't really get, and I'd like to share that with you first. Number one, everybody knows about Frederick Douglass.
Yep.
Everybody knows Frederick Douglass. But they don't know that Frederick Douglass actually helped recruit his 2 sons, Wesley and Charles, to go fight with the 54th Massachusetts. Wesley was a sergeant major. He rose to the rank of sergeant major, the highest rank, enlisted rank.
Back then.
Yes, in the 54th. Wow. So if you, I think it was said before, back in those days, the U.S. colored troops, they were mostly enlisted men, but the officers were white.
Yep.
And then so the senior position that you could get as an African American would be that sergeant major position. And Wesley got that sergeant
rising up.
He rose up to that. Frederick Douglass told his sons, if you want freedom, you got to go fight for it.
Absolutely.
And they went in and they fought for it. They went at the battle down at South Carolina. Everybody sees that. That's in the Pitch of Glory. They got all in. They went in all in and said, "Yeah, we're going to fight for our freedom, Dad. We're going in. And we're gonna go give it all we got to free our people."
Yeah, absolutely.
That's one of the things that most folks don't know about. The second thing that most folks don't know about is that Miss Harriet Tubman, Miss Harriet Tubman, fought in the Civil War. She was the first woman to lead troops into combat in the United States of America. Wow. She led a scout and an intelligence unit sanctioned by President Lincoln. And she was also a nurse. And she was also a cook. So most folks don't even know that Harriet Tubman, she was the first woman to lead people into combat.
During that time.
The President of the United States, President Lincoln, knew about that operation and sanctioned the operation.
Wow.
Go ahead.
Those are real things that I'd ask folks to go dig in deep and find out.
Absolutely.
Because these are true heroic people that have done extraordinary things for our country.
Yes, sir.
And again, I'd say the 54th, but again, there's others, in the, that war, there's several folks that won Medal of Honors. One of the first was Sergeant William Carney. Most folks don't know about him. William Carney was one of the first ones to win the Medal of Honor in the Civil War. So I like sharing those tidbits because I'm going to challenge the folks that are watching and especially your students.
Absolutely.
Hey, go look for those things because they're out there now. You got the internet. And they're there. Go look for them. Those are true facts.
Absolutely.
And it's funny when you bring up Harriet Tubman. The way I actually teach her in my own classroom is I teach her and from the perspective of someone as a POW. She escaped, but she kept going back behind enemy lines to rescue more POWs, and she didn't do it once. She did it 13, 14, 15 times. She might have saved only a few hundred, but that's not the point. The point is that, now I always say she probably would have been a Marine. She probably would have been.
No question. No question.
But it's just, when students hear stories like that, finding inspiration in people like that is really important. And my school's demographic is like 90% African American, and so when I can expose my students to this kind of, I was like, oh my God, Mr. Flynn, she could do that. I was like, absolutely, she did that. Yeah. Versus what the textbook might give her a paragraph.
Exactly.
And it's just they didn't know, and it's just It's what, and I don't bring in state exams, but it's what, teachers, what we have as content, where our state standards kind of push us to drive. And a lot of that special history is gone. And I am so thankful that you mentioned and brought that up, because it's so vitally important. And I really hope students watching this will go and look up Harriet Tubman's service and look up, Frederick Douglass's children and find out where they went and what they did. And our Medal of Honor recipients as well. And we start talking about World War I, there's a special part I want to ask our guests, you and Timothy, about that when we get into that. There's something special for that too. But, that's why I wanted you here, for your expertise with the Civil War, bro. That's amazing.
Yeah, just one more thing I got for the students, for the audience. In the near future, within the next few years, Harriet Tubman's face will be on our currency.
Yes, finally.
That is something for you students to go research, find out exactly when it's going to be there. I'm challenging you. But
20, right?
Know your history.
$20 bill, yes.
$20 bill.
And that was
history.
That was commissioned by President Obama, right?
Yep.
Yep.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, it started under. Yeah, I read about that, and I was ecstatic when I heard about it. And I was like, it was like only president. I've heard students used to say only presidents could be on, but then explain Benjamin Franklin to be on 100. And, well, because students always they think that it's only presidents that are on money, and they don't understand Benjamin Franklin's contribution to it. But it's just. No, I was elated when I heard that, and it's just that's an amazing way to honor African Americans and put them on the currency, make everybody see it, and she absolutely deserves the honor and the recognition.
The first woman in the United States of America that led men into combat.
That's very cool.
During a time where they did not value women the way they do now.
Exactly.
Even 100 years ago, they were paying women pennies on the dollar. If quality-wise, imagine 100 years even before that. And she's leading troops into battle, and they have to respect her with their lives, because at the end of the day, you never know, until you're in combat, how serious things can be and how much you depend on each other. And so for them to have that faith and trust in her, and her as a woman, and a black woman especially, is amazing. I didn't know that she did that. And honestly, I think that's amazing that she quite literally is a pioneer in her story, and she needs to have more information, I guess, expanded upon. And I'm so thankful that you were able to give us more of that today. Thank you.
It's my pleasure.
So I got a couple ending questions for you, because I've heard some things about you. So first off, don't know if it's true. Now you have to provide some information. I heard you jumped into Gettysburg. I heard you did that.
Well, that is true. That is true.
Yeah, tell us about that.
The question will be with that is, when you jump, being airborne myself now, after you tell us how you did it, what were your thoughts standing in the door looking down over the battlefield? Those are the two questions I really want you to tell us.
Yeah, I first want to give just a lot of thanks to my leadership, because I was the command sergeant major of the 112 Special Operations Battalion. Wow. And our leadership gave us the opportunity to do what they call an officer and non-commissioned officer professional development session. And our session was to jump into Gettysburg and reenact the Battle of Antietam. So we, being in an airborne unit and the only airborne Special Operations Signal, we boarded the plane, and there's a actual film. We had a photographer film the whole thing, and it started from Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
Really?
And we got on the plane and we flew Napa to Earth, which is a flight that most folks don't like to fly because it kind of gets to your stomach. But yeah, we got down there. I was the primary jump master for the event, which I was humbled and so proud. And we got to the drop zone, and we had about three airplanes, 3 ships in formation, and got everyone out. It was a big grass field, is what it was. It was a grass farm. It was a drop zone.
How many in your stick?
We filled up the plane. We had C-130, so we had about basically in each plane we had about close to about 50 in each plane.
And what's the importance of a jump master for the students watching?
Well,
and what is a jump master?
Yeah, what the jump master is, he or she is the person responsible for everyone's life.
On the plane.
That's on the ground, in the air, and until you get on the ground. They're responsible for everything to ensure that you are safe.
Yep.
They do what they call jump master checks to make sure all of your equipment is right.
Keep your gear.
And everything is the way it's supposed to be.
Yep.
And there's nothing missing, because once you get into that aircraft, it's game on. You're leaving.
Yes, sir.
You're going to leave that door. You're going to leave that.
Yeah,
and so they do jump master inspections. We have pre-jump. They tell everybody what to do before they do it. You got to go into a rehearsal. So you rehearse everything on the ground before you get into the airplane.
Absolutely.
And then when you get in the airplane, muscle memory kicks in, and then everything else kind of happens. And then on the ground, you're the last one that has to make sure that everybody's accounted for, nobody's hurt, and everything. And once that's complete, your duty is over. And what most folks don't know is that the Air Force, the guys, the pilots, and the load masters, they give the plane over to you, the jump master. Yes.
Your bird.
Yeah, it's your bird. You're in charge of everything. And so, that's one of the, to be a jump master, certainly in the 82nd Airborne Division, that's a leadership thing. You're definitely going to have to be a jump master, because you're going to lead people. You gotta see it to be it.
Yep.
And again, that's a responsibility like none other. I mean, that's like, you've got everyone's lives in your hand
Literally.
from the beginning to the end. So that's what a jump master duty is, if that explains it.
Absolutely. And I mean, the people that are jumping, you're having jump with you, I mean, they're trusting you with their lives.
Yes.
I mean, quite literally, you're jumping out of a plane. So, I mean, to have that kind of trust, make sure your gear's ready, you're jumping in the right place. I mean, you were jumping into Gettysburg. There's a lot of places that could have been perilous to jump, like trees or, rocks, sharp cliffs. Were there any concerns when you were dropping, like if you were going to land on the wrong drop zone or something?
Well, what happened was, I'll tell you, this is something that I hadn't told anybody before. But we were flying in one of the most prestigious planes from our command, and it's one of those planes that it goes anywhere and does anything in any type of weather and any day or night and everything, and it's spot on. So and they got us there on time, on target, and I wasn't, because of the professionalism of the folks that fly those type of aircraft and the things that they do for us in our command. I had no worries at all. But it was a grass farm, and the grass farm was it was beautiful. As a matter of fact, when I looked down at it, you say beautiful grass. I mean, look at it. We're finna jump into this, because normal drop zones are it's like a runway, or it's a it's grass. I mean, it's dirt. It's a driveway. It's hazardous.
A lot of rocks.
This was pretty cool. And but back to your point about hazards. Yes, there are many hazards when you do exit an aircraft. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. But from the professionalism of the paratroopers and the muscle memory that you get from being qualified as a paratrooper, most times things don't happen.
And after you cleared the door, and looked down,
yes.
I mean, I've toured the battlefields. I've been to Gettysburg many times, and I do now since we had that. I never thought like, after you cleared the door, what was the first thing going through your mind when you saw the ground?
Well, I'll tell you, being a jump master, I was the last one out of the plane, because
of course.
And I asked the pilot to do one last racetrack. Racetrack is that you just go around and then come back on the drop. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of emotions were going through me at that particular time. I just had to think about it. Hey, here I am. I brought my battalion to do a professional development here at the Gettysburg where, people fought
Yeah.
for my freedom.
Truly.
So literally, I'm in the aircraft and I'm crying, and I'm literally crying, and because it all sank in at that particular point, and then everybody was wondering why the plane was coming by again.
Yeah.
And I was the sole person that jumped out, but I cried all the way down to the ground because of the pride,
Yeah.
and because of what was done on that battlefield.
Truly.
For our freedom.
I mean, the lives lost. I mean, just like everything that happened, like it's such a historical place. Like it truly is an amazing place to have jumped. Like, I mean, to see the film, like I have to see it when we're done here.
We'll get it. Manual.
We're gonna
also,
it's on CD, so we're gonna have to we're gonna digitize it, and we're gonna make a shareable link that we can put on so everyone can share that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I gotta see this. No, I have to see this. But so we talked a little bit before we mentioned with Kathy Williams the Buffalo Soldiers, but can you expand more on who the Buffalo Soldiers were specifically and how they contributed to the Civil War?
And that can jump into the Spanish-American War.
Yeah. So the Buffalo Soldiers. I'll just jump right into the Spanish-American War because it's one of the most notable ones that the Buffalo Soldiers were involved in. Most folks don't realize that the 9th and 10th Cavalry and the 24th and 25th Infantry, which were Buffalo Soldiers, they sailed out of Tampa, Florida, for the Spanish-American War. They also helped save Teddy Roosevelt's Rough Riders.
Really?
Yes. And most folks don't know that Teddy Roosevelt's headquarters prior to deploying for the Spanish-American War, when they deployed out of Tampa, was what is now the University of Tampa. So if you're ever in Tampa, you go to the River Walk. There's a River Walk there, and there's the University of Tampa. That was the headquarters for Theodore Roosevelt and the Rough Riders. Wow. Now, the 9th and 10th Cav, they didn't stay in the hotels. They didn't stay in it. They stayed in bivouac areas outside of the city, but they did sail from Tampa, and some of the first ones to head down to the fight, and they accompanied Teddy Roosevelt up on San Juan Hill.
So I know some units, like because of the fact that there were like black units specifically, like they only had certain tasks. Was the Buffalo Soldiers tasked to only do a certain thing, or were they security? What specifically?
No, the 9th and 10th they were cavalry.
Okay.
They were cavalry. They're coming at you. Not only did they do the Spanish-American War, but they helped settle the West.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize that, but they helped settle the West out here. Matter of fact, I rode the trail in Fort Huachuca
during the
yeah. So they were fighters. They were fighters. They were cavalrymen, first in charge, blah blah blah. 24th and 25th were infantry regiments. Okay. They were fighters too. I mean, they're infantry regiment. Yeah, they're fighters too. So this set of Buffalo Soldiers, and they were a lot of folks. They were fierce. They were fierce. And again, back to the Spanish-American War, they helped save a lot of the Rough Riders.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because here in San Antonio, they're actually, the Menger Hotel is known because the Rough Riders would always come through here in this area. So when you said their headquarters was in Tampa, I was like, are you sure? I know you're the expert, but I know they came through here quite often.
The headquarters before they sailed down to the Spanish-American War to go take San Juan Hill was in Tampa. That headquarters before they sailed. Yeah, and then another thing I'd like to tell you about the city of Tampa was they hosted I think it was the 139th national reunion for the Buffalo Soldiers in Tampa in 2005. Outstanding event. We saw the city of Tampa just opened up the whole city to the national event. It was a historic time. A lot of people got educated, and what was so impressive about it was that it was a chance to educate, then celebrate. Because once people got educated, they celebrated the fact that these guys they They left Tampa. I mean, Spanish-American War. This is where they left, and they went down. And you know, San Juan Hill is now in the history books, and Teddy Roosevelt's in the history books. But it happened there, the 9th and the 10th. You know, they sailed from there. So again, what I kind of say, you know, again, you know, once you get the education, you know, it's really key. It's really, really key, and we should look for opportunities to educate folks.
Yeah. One quick question before we wrap up. So a lot of the cavalry that fought under Roosevelt, they fought actually as dismounted cavalry as well, because there was you know, logistics issues. And was the 9th and 10th in that same situation? Did they fight as dismounted cavalry? I mean, they trained to fight as cavalry, you know, as a cavalry regiment. But a lot of the cavalry units, a lot of the white cavalry units, they actually fought as dismounted cavalry. Were the 9th and 10th in that same category?
I don't, for that particular point, for San Juan Hill, I don't know, but they rode horses out in the West, for sure. Out in the West, as a matter of fact, the trails, you can actually go down the trails, the horse trails that they had. We specifically, when I was in uniform, we actually rode those trails. We got on horses and actually rode those trails that the 9th and the 10th actually rode while they were horsemen.
Literally,
horsemen.
like following footsteps in history, quite literally.
Exactly. On the horse, going straight down the trails.
And is there any little known facts during that time that you would like to share with us?
Well, you know, from the Spanish-American War, I mean, you know, I'm in Harpo and Tampa because that's where I'm from. So I'd like, you know, I would challenge a lot of folks to just think about it. Big Deal Air Force Base is right there in Tampa. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the route that they sailed, it goes right past Big Deal Air Force Base. Sail down to Pico, San Juan Hill. So it was a privilege for me to have that understanding of Buffalo soldiers, and then, you know, while I was working at Big Deal, to just look out and know that these heroes have passed through here to protect America.
I think that kind of sums up what advice you give our viewers, and I can't thank you enough for, you know, coming by and sharing all that history with us today, AC. I'm floored. I wish I could have been at Gettysburg and watching, you know, 150 guys under the flood canopy coming down. I couldn't even begin to imagine what that must have looked like. And then Sergeant Major.
Definitely. That would have been awesome.
I deserve it.
No, absolutely.
No, I was joking, man. I'm just joking.
And thank you for sharing. Appreciate it.
But is there any links if anyone wants to check out or learn any more about Buffalo Soldiers?
Well, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go to my colleague and my friend, Mr. Tim McCoy. I tell everybody, Tim has a library that's beyond belief. He has artifacts. He travels. He does a phenomenal job of keeping up with day-to-day history. And the fact, here's just one thing that Tim, I'm just going to have to give you this shout out. Some of the members that have done these historic events in their later years when they're about to pass, they've called Tim to get the last story from their mouths.
Wow.
Yes, they have. I think, again, Tim has... If I had to refer anybody to real facts, it's C. Tim McCoy.
So me personally, I like to ask odd questions, but what advice would you give to someone who felt maybe that because maybe they couldn't do, you know, something significant, you know, they're like a black student, they don't know if they should go in the military, they don't know if they should, you know, they could be better than that. Like, is there any advice that you would give to someone that maybe is doubting themselves, you know, and what they're capable of?
Yeah, you know, I'll tell you, just give you my history. I had a speech impediment. You know, I was in segregated schools. You know, when I was in elementary, I couldn't speak. I had to get classes to speak before I went into an integrated school. You know, I've overcome a lot of challenges. When people tell me I can't, that triggers something in me. Said I can.
Yes, sir.
And you can do anything you want to do. You just have to put your mind to it, and then, you know, seek counsel from mentors.
Yeah.
and coaches, and teachers, things of that nature. Because along my way, I was mentored by a lot of former military members. I played sports, and a lot of my coaches were prior military folks. But you can be anything you want to be. But one thing I will tell you to do, everybody, you need to study the United States Constitution.
Yeah.
Because men and women go every day, they put their lives on the line to defend that. You need to know what that is, and specifically because we're talking today about Black history.
Absolutely.
Understand the 13th, which freed the slaves, the 14th gave them citizenship, the 15th, which gave them the right to vote.
Yep.
So that's what we all swear to protect and defend.
Yep.
Everybody.
Yep.
In uniform and government civilians.
Yes, sir.
So study the Constitution.
Thanks so much for stopping by. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for your time. We very much appreciate all your advice and wisdom.